Hello, and welcome to an introduction to tool libraries in Autodesk Fusion. Now, when I say tool library, what I'm talking about is a virtual or digital tool library that you're going to make that matches exactly a physical tool library that you have and you use on a CNC machine. And what we're going to do is, once we've created these tool libraries in Fusion, we are in the manufacturer workspace, we're going to be using them to create toolpaths to program CNC machines to make things. So there are a lot of details to go over. This video is going to go over just kind of an overview of tool libraries, and in the next video we're going to actually get into making your first tool libraries and adding tools to it. So let's get started with an overview right now. So this video is going to go over how to set up tool libraries in the software, but a more in-depth discussion on tools and tool libraries and kind of what the different parts of a tool are and kind of the important things and the important factors. We go over that in chapter 5 of the book CNC Beginner's Guide. And so go ahead and check out this chapter for a lot more detail than what we're going to go over today. But what we're going to go over today is kind of like how to get the software set up for getting ready for making your first programs, things like that. So let's get started in Autodesk Fusion. We're going to start in the manufacturer environment. So if you're in the design environment, make sure you change over to manufacturer. I'm going to check my units, make sure they're in inches. You can work in inches or millimeter, but I think that it's important to, or I found that it's best to work in the units that are associated with the tooling that you're working with. And in this case, our tooling is going to be in inches, so I'm going to be working in inches here. And actually, if we take a look at the book again, if we go to the appendix, the very end here, I have a few sample libraries here. So I have one sample library for a Haas VF2SS and one sample library for a ShotBot Alpha router. If you scroll down here, I have all of the tool geometry and the manufacturer information. And then I also have feeds and speeds that I know will work on a Haas VF2. Now, finding the right tool geometry is really important, and you can get to that by a lot of times on the tool itself. It'll be printed with the manufacturer, their logo, and then like the number, which defines that tool. And you can use this to look up information from the manufacturer, and they'll give you usually really specific geometry for the tool, as well as some recommended starting points for speeds and feeds. So here in this table, what I've done is I've worked up speeds and feeds that I have tried and I know work on a Haas VF2SS. I think that it's a really tricky thing recommending speeds and feeds because it's very situational, right? If your machine is different than the one that I'm thinking of, then you're going to have different speeds and feeds. For instance, this machine, this Haas VF2 that I'm working with, has a maximum spindle speed of 12,000 RPM. Now, your machine may have a higher RPM or a lower max RPM. And in that case, you would need to make adjustments to your specific tool library that reflects that machine that it's going to be used on. And you need to be able to kind of like try these different settings on your machine and make sure, kind of verify that they're going to work. In addition to just like what the machine is capable of in terms of like spindle speed or feed rate, we also have the horsepower of the spindle, and that's going to be widely variable, and it's going to kind of like, it influences how aggressive you can be with your given machine, which shows up in all the other numbers. So the numbers that I know work on this machine, they work with this machine given that it has a 30 horsepower spindle. If your machine has a 15 horsepower spindle, you probably won't be able to machine these values, even if your spindle is capable of spinning at 12,000 RPM. So you'll have to make adjustments. And I think that the really important thing is keeping really good notes, knowing what your machine is capable of, and trying things out and being able to kind of like stop your machine if you need to, make adjustments, and then try something else until you can work your way to having a library that is set up so that you know these values are going to work on your machine. If you have once you have a library set up for your machine with values you know that work, then you don't really have to worry about that too much. You can kind of select tools and really work on the kind of machining strategy and like the setups and things like that. So getting that dialed in is going to be kind of like, really particular to your situation, and it's going to take some time and effort, but what we offer here are kind of like really good starting points. So in order to take a look at tool libraries in Fusion, let's see, we're in the manufacturer environment where we've changed our units to inches because our tools are in inches. And in the manage section here, we can click on tool library. And I can see here, what's come up is on the left here. Just going to clean this up a little bit. On the left here, at the very top, you have documents. And if there are any open documents, right now there aren't any. If there's any tools that are used in any CNC programs in those documents, they'll show up right here, and you'll see a list of them here. There's also local section, and this is where a tool library will show up if it's saved locally on your computer. But then there's the cloud section, which I find very useful because, when you save a tool library to the cloud, then you can log into Fusion on any computer. It doesn't matter the computer you're on, as long as you log in with your Fusion login credentials. Your tool libraries will show up here. So that's where I save all of my tool libraries. And in order to turn on cloud libraries, you have to do a certain thing because it's not on by default. So we're going to close that dialog box there, and in the top right, click on your profile here, and then click Preferences, and you'll get this dialog box that pops up. In the manufacturer section, click on this checkbox right here, Enable Cloud Libraries. Make sure that is checked. Click Apply, and then OK. And now your cloud library should be turned on. Just kind of really quickly, let's take a look at the data panel. If we go to the data panel, I'm going to click on the Home button. And if we go down to Assets under Libraries here, this is where a lot of that CAM information is going to be stored on the cloud. Okay, so we have CAM machines. If you have any machine configurations, you're going to store them here. CAM posts for special post processors, and then CAM tools. And if we open this up, this is going to be where all those libraries kind of save to. We're not going to access them from here. This is just kind of where they're saved to. So we're actually going to go back. I'm going to close the data panel. And I'm going to go back to Tool Library. So I'm going to go to Manage and Tool Library. So those are our cloud tool libraries there. If we wanted to make a new tool library, we're going to right click, in this case on the cloud, and say New Library. I'm going to make one that's called CNC Beginners. And I'm going to say Haas Mill. And hit enter, and that will be where I kind of make my tool library. Again, we're going to go over we're adding tool libraries, adding tools, and kind of getting your tool library set up in the next video. But the basic way you do that is you would push this plus button here, and you would select the type of tool. We have milling tools here, hole making tools here for taps and drills and things like that. Turning tools for CNC lathes, cutting tools for like a water jet, laser or plasma cutters, probes or specialty tool holders. So say we selected a flat end mill. And then we would get this dialog box that is where we specify all the details of the tool. So there's the general information about the tool, which is really important if you want to, if you want to reorder tools. Having that information right here in Fusion is really nice. Then the cutter information, which is going to be everything from the number of flutes to the specific geometry and material of the tool, all the way to cutting data, where this is going to have information that's specific to your machine. So it's going to be spindle speeds, feed rates, cutting data for a given tool on a given machine. And we're going to go over all of that in the next video. I'm going to click cancel right here. Let's go over the other libraries that we have. So there are vendor libraries, if you look down here, and this is kind of something that's getting added to all the time. Vendor libraries are kind of preset things. So Harvey tool here, you have the end mills, and for instance, there's Harvey tool end mill right there. Looks like there's some flat end mills here. These are really small. I keep going down. These are very, very small tools. You can specify, I think, you can add filters here if you wanted to. So milling tools. And these are, again, all very small still. Harvey has a lot of tools. Right. So if you're looking for a tool and you have the manufacturer of the tool, you might even be able to find it in here. And one thing that it'll have is it'll have under the presets, it'll have, might have recommended spindle speeds and feed rates and things like that. It doesn't look like Harvey really has those set up. But Haas, here we go, some Haas tooling. Let's see. Yeah, here's a Haas end mill. And it has different feeds and speeds set up for different materials, it looks like. So there's a lot you can kind of get into with these vendor tools, and I think it's changing all the time, right? But there's a lot there. So if you can find your tool in there, that's okay. There's also the Fusion library, which if we expand this, you may have to turn it on. I'm going to turn on the Fusion library here, and I use Fusion library for things like drill bits, and sometimes if I want, a certain tool, I can find a version of it in the tool library. So the Fusion library has like kind of generic tools, and so it's a good starting point if you don't want to start totally from scratch. You can grab a tool from here, and let's just kind of grab a tool and let's put it in. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to go to Fusion library, cutting tools inch, and I'm going to clear all the search filters. Yeah. Oh, I actually want to go to milling tools inch. And yeah, let's say, okay, 1/2 inch flat end mill. So it looks like they have a generic 1/2 inch flat end mill right here. And it has presets for aluminum roughing, aluminum finishing, brass, copper, low carbon steel, high carbon steel, plastic, stainless steel, titanium. So if I want to grab that tool, I can right click on it and say copy tool. And then I can go to the tool library I just made that has nothing in it, and I can right click in here and say paste tool. And there it is. We have our 1/2 inch flat end mill, which is our first tool in that library, and with these presets. And if I right click on this tool, I can say edit tool. And it'll bring up that dialog box again. And I can have information on the cutter. And again, this is generic stuff. The really important thing if you're going to use generic tools is you have to modify all this stuff in here. So all of the flute length, the shoulder length, that's going to be so specific to the tool that you have. It's probably going to be different than this one. So this is just a starting point to get you kind of going, but you have to change all of these details, especially in the geometry, in the cutter tab, in the geometry section for your tool, as well as cutting data. So we have all these. This is actually kind of nice in the Fusion library. You have all these different presets here. So brass, finishing, aluminum, roughing, right? These are all kind of values that, for whatever reason they chose for their sample library. Now these numbers again may be different than the numbers that you are running on your machine. Maybe the spindle speed is different, or like, your machine's not capable of that speed. Maybe your machine's not capable of that feed rate. Maybe the horsepower of your spindle isn't capable of resisting those machining forces that are created with this combination of spindle speed and feed rate. This is really just a starting point. And if you're using these for the first time especially, you have to be really careful and you have to pay a lot of attention to the machine as it's happening. And you can, take notes and make adjustments to the speeds and feeds, and work up a really good library that works with your specific CNC machine with these specific tools. So I'm going to hit cancel right there. Yeah, so that is kind of an overview of tool libraries in Fusion. But, it's only really as meaningful or as important as it matches your actual tool library. So in the next video, we're going to go over in great detail how to create your tool library from scratch. So look out for that video, and that's it. Thanks for watching.